Welcome back to Coding Commanders. I'm Commander Candy, and today we are going to start our first coding project. In this video, we're going to build the HTML form for an application to calculate somebody's datability score. I thought this would be a fun little application for our first coding project. So in our video today, we're going to have to come up with the questions and learn how to build a form. In my next video, we're going to write the logic in PHP. That's the code that's going to actually make our application work. After doing the PHP logic, either I'll do form validation followed by database, or I will do CSS, responsive design, to make our form responsive. I'm going to cover all bases by the time I'm done with the project, but I'd appreciate if you let me know what you prefer. So I hope everybody's geared up and ready to start using your creativity and your analytical ability to come up with questions that will really determine if somebody's dateable to you or not. Also, we're going to practice our technical skills of building an HTML form. And on a side note, you'll also learn what Commander Candy looks for in a date.
Coding Commanders.
If this is your first time joining me, or you don't use a Linux programming environment, don't get bogged down with this part. We're going to get into the text editor and start writing our code in a moment. First, I just want to go ahead and get us to the right directory for those that are following my curriculum. So let's go ahead and cd to /var/www/html. That's ls. If you have not created the projects directory, then mkdir space projects will create that for you. If you are following along with my tutorials and you do have your projects directory, let's go ahead and cd into projects. In my last video, I covered Git and GitHub for version control, and we created a directory called dating app. So if you did not create that dating app directory yet, you're going to mkdir space dating app. If you do have it created, then just go ahead and cd into dating app. In the last video, we did create a Git repository for this directory, and we also created a file called index.php. Actually, I could have named it index.html. After I made the video, I realized in that file there's not really going to be a PHP. We're going to do a separate PHP file. But I'm just going to stick with index.php. If you want, you can change it to index.html. Your choice. I use Vi text editor, so I'm going to do Vi space index.php. Once you get into Vi, you press I to go into insert mode, and you'll press escape to get back to command mode, where we can type commands to do things like save, exit, do different types of editing, go to a specific line, all sorts of cool stuff. We are going to brush up on our Vi skills in this video as well. To start off our document, we're going to do our doc type tag. This is going to let our browser know that we're using HTML5. Next, we'll do our starting HTML tag, followed by our ending HTML tag. Inside our HTML tags, we're going to have a page head, and we're also going to have a page body. Inside our head tag, we're going to have a page title, and I'm going to call the title Datability Score. Inside the body, we are going to have a form. Inside this form tag, I'm going to define the method as equal to post. That's the method we are going to use to pass our input back to PHP into usable variables to write our logic. Then after that, I'm going to do action equals, and I'm going to call the PHP document where we write our logic main.php. Now let's do our closing form. Okay, now I think we're ready to create our form inside. First thing I'm going to do is have a heading. I'm going to do an H1 tag. My heading's going to say, what is your datability score? Next, we're going to write our questions. You need to think about what questions will reveal whether or not somebody is dateable to you, because yours probably won't be the same as mine. But I'm going to go through mine and go through, how I came up with them, things like that, which might give you some ideas, help you out with creating your questions. First, I'm going to do a HTML comment and call it Q1. so it's easy to see where each question is. Actually, I decided before question 1, let's do our text input. Yesterday, I kind of did like a practice one of these by myself to come up with, how I wanted to create the app. And I did not do any text input, but I want to do text input because then when we do our database, we are going to want the people that fill out the form to, we're going to want like their name, probably their email. And I have written lessons on building HTML forms, which I will link in the video description. I also have one-click copy boxes for a basic HTML form and a responsive HTML form. Okay, before we do our text input field, let's go ahead and do a label. Here is where we will write our actual question. Let's start off with first name. Let's just say first name. So we will want them to enter their first name here, obviously. I will go ahead and do BR. Now we're going to do our input tag, input, type equal text, name equals, say, first. Let's put a placeholder. The placeholder is going to be the text in gray that displays in the text box before somebody types. And after placeholder, I'm going to type required because I definitely want the person to fill out their first name. I want to know if they're not willing to give me their first name, then they're disqualified from the dating process. Next, I'm going to do an input field for their last name. You're definitely going to want to do form validation whenever you have people doing any type of input, especially text input. This video, again, I'm not going to do that. But keep in mind, before you put things live, you'll definitely want more validation than what we're going to do today. So next we're going to do last name. So type is going to equal text. Name is going to equal last. Placeholder is going to equal last name. And I'm not going to make the last name required because I can understand if, you don't want to give me your last name yet, that's fine. Next, we're going to do email because if the person who takes the test passed, you're probably going to want to be able to contact them. Well, if you're single at least. If you're not single, you probably want to leave off the email input field. Input space type is going to be equal to email. Name is going to be equal to email. Placeholder is going to be equal to your email at email.com. And I'm going to go ahead and type required here because I want to make sure that, if they pass, I'm able to get a hold of them. And then at the end, let's BR. Before we go ahead and type out our questions, let's press escape real quick. : W exclaim is going to save our file. Now let's go ahead, type your IP address in the browser. You can type ifconfig to find your IP address. You might want to watch my intro to Linux video if you didn't know that. Let's go ahead, go to projects, dating app. We don't have a submit button yet, but this is what the app looks like. And so here I would type Candy. Last name, I would type Kane. Email, codingcommanders@gmail.com. But we don't have a submit button to do any submitting yet. I forgot to put labels for last name and for email, so let's go ahead and add those now. And here I see a typo. Now let's go ahead and put our email label. And I'm putting BRs after my labels. I'm going to escape again, : W exclaim. Okay, we're ready for our first question, which is going to be, how well can you program? I chose that question because I love to do computer programming, and if I could learn from the person I'm dating, that would be awesome. If you're a good programmer, you could probably teach me things. And even if you're an average programmer, or even if you're honestly inexperienced but wanting to learn, we can still, program together and learn and grow. That's going to be stuff that's important to me. And we are going to put the options in something called selects. You might have heard of. It's, the drop down, you choose one. So for a select element, we are going to write select. And then let's say 4 equals Q1. Now let's do our ending select tag. I'm going to do a BR. Inside our select tag, we're going to have the different options that people could select as their answer to the question. I forgot to put a question mark after my question, so let me go put that in now. Now let's do our options. It's going to be option for Q1 value. Let's do 1. We're going to use these values when we do our PHP. I just like to value things at numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, so it makes it easy to remember and to write our logic. You'll see this illustrated a little bit better in my next video when we write our logic. Our ending tag, I'm going to do 3 options. Option 4 equals Q1, value equals, this time I'm going to say 2. Now let's do our closing option tag. Now I want you to do is press escape to go to command mode. Now put your cursor right before the less than symbol in our Q1 comment. Make sure you're in command mode. And what we are going to do is this block of HTML code that we wrote for our select, we want to copy it so we can paste it again and again, so we don't have to keep writing the same code over and over again. Now in by, we call copy paste yank put, okay? So how many lines do we have to copy is the first thing you're going to want to know. Okay, now that we're in command mode, we are going to type the number 6 followed by a capital Y. And you see on the bottom, it says 6 lines yanked. Now you want to make sure that your cursor's at the end. And we are going to go ahead and press P. Now that we are back in insert mode, we could go ahead and type our next question. My next question is, what is your ideal first date? Because I want to date somebody that likes to do activities similar to me, or is at least willing to take me to places that I want to go, right? I mean, I don't want to go on a date if it's going to be something boring or something uninteresting. And it looks like I did not yank enough. I don't have that ending select. Now I'm back in command mode, and I'm going to do yank again because I did not yank enough last time. So let's do 7, capital Y, 7 lines yanked. Now I have my cursor at the end of the ending select tag, and I'm going to go ahead and type a lowercase p. My third question is, what is your highest level of education? Formal education, like, you know, university degrees, they don't mean everything, but I do want somebody that's educated. I have met people that were very well read, very educated without having a college degree, and that's okay. But their highest level of education will tell me a little bit something about, you know, their knowledge base, and also their ability to like commit and stick with something, right? It takes certain, you know, ability of stay with itness in order to complete a college degree. The more degrees you have, you know, that's pretty hardcore. If you have like a PhD, that's some dedication, and I want a dedicated man. Now I'm going to go back to command mode, lowercase p again. I'm going to go into insert mode, change that 2 to a 4. And my fourth question is going to be, do you like sci-fi? The only type of like TV shows and movies that I watch currently are sci-fi, and what good is having a boyfriend if you can't cuddle up and watch sci-fi with them? So this is a very important question. For question 5, instead of a select, I'm going to do a radio button. But before we get into our radio buttons, let's press escape real quick, and we're going to do :W exclaim to save. Now let's go back to our web browser and refresh the page, and this is what it should look like. We don't have any options yet. There's a less than there that shouldn't be there, so I'm going to have to look at that. Okay, I accidentally typed a greater than sign there, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I'm going to press escape. Got to do some BRs here. See how like each question should be on a new line. So again, back in insert mode, let's go ahead, do our BR after each ending select tag. Let's go ahead and refresh, and now everything's on its own line. Cool. Before we do our radio buttons, let's put our options for our selects in there. For how well can you program, the first option is, let's go back into insert mode, and the first option is going to be expert. The next option is going to say average. And the final option is going to say below average / no experience. For what is your ideal first date, the first option is going to say coffee shop. The next option is going to say dinner and computer programming. The third one's going to say your house. The next one is going to say dinner and a movie. And then the final option is going to be a Slipknot concert. For what is your highest level of education, the first option is going to be no college degree, let's say. The second option is going to be a BA or BS degree, a bachelor's. The final option is going to be graduate degree. And for do you like sci-fi, I am actually going to make that a radio button, that one, because that's going to be a yes or no question. I'm going to do my yes and no's and radio buttons. But for question 4, I'm going to say, what is your idea of a romantic evening? The first option is going to be romantic comedy, gag. The next option is going to be plural sight and chill. And the final option is, hey baby, do you want to come over? Now let's go back to our web browser and refresh. Let's check it out. Okay, that looks good. Now I forgot to change the 4s on my select, so we're going to do that now. On question 2, we're going to, instead of saying 4Q1, we're going to want to say 4Q2 on every one. And remember to change it from Q1 to Q2 on your starting select tag and each option tag. Now let's go in here. I didn't even type nothing in here, huh? I was rushing through. 4 equals Q2. Value is going to equal 4. Now we're at Slipknot concert. 4 is going to equal Q2. And value, let's make it equal to 5. Now I'm at question 3. Again, my starting select tag I have to change as well as every option. Now, question 4, change the select tag to Q4. Now I'll do every option. Question 5, again, we're going to do a radio button. This is going to be a very important one. It's going to be, do you like sci-fi? Again, that's very important to me. So let's start off with a label. And I probably will spell label wrong at some point. I always mess up the E and the L, so don't hate. I'm going to remember my BR after my label this time. And for radio buttons, the way we're going to do it, it's going to say input type equals radio. For name, we are going to call it Q5. And now for value, we are going to call it 1. And that's going to be yes. Now let's do our closing input tag. Now BR. Now for the next one, input type equals radio. Name equals Q5. And value is going to equal 2. And the text will say no. And now let's do our closing input tag. And here's our radio buttons where they can say yes or no. Okay, now I'm back in insert mode at my radio button. I want to put a BR afterwards. Do you know embedded systems? Did I spell embedded right? Embedded. Right enough, right? The reason why I'm asking that is because I'm interested in learning embedded programming, and especially if they answered that, you know, dinner and programming would be their ideal first date, and if they know embedded systems as well, they can probably help teach me some cool stuff. Maybe we can have a date where we can build, you know, an embedded systems project together. That'd be a great way to start a relationship. So this is going to be, it's not essential though. I mean, if somebody doesn't know embedded systems, I wouldn't really hold it against them. But if they did, it would be a nice little perk. And again, we're going to have 2 input fields, one for yes, one for no. For question 7, I'm going to go back to doing selects. I believe I still have the select thing yanked, so I'm going to try to put. In the next question, I want to determine if they're like a nice, considerate, appreciative type person. I myself am, so I need to be with somebody else Otherwise, I'll feel taken advantage of if I'm being nice and sweet and caring and they're being mean. So no mean people. If you're mean, it automatically disqualifies you. We are coding at your house. You order in dinner. When the dinner arrives, my order is wrong. What do you do? Let's go ahead, change these to Q7. And now we are ready for our submit button. Input, type is going to equal submit. Then name is going to also, I'm going to call it submit. Now I'm going to take the value for question 7, change it from a 2 to a 4. So now that we have our submit button, it won't submit it if we do not fill out certain fields. Candy, Kane, how well can you program, what's your ideal first date, PHP yet, so it doesn't work, but next video, we will. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to check out my GitHub where all the code that I typed today, I will push it over to my GitHub before this video comes out. Let me know how you like this video. And again, let me know if you're more into the front end or the back end. If you don't know the difference between front end and back end, I actually have a really good video on it that totally explains it. If you want to learn computer programming and you don't know the difference between front and back, you need to learn it right now. I will link it in the video description. I'm also going to put that one on the end screen because that's an important concept. Also, look out in the video description. I'll have the link to my donor rewards page. Yes, I will reward you for helping me provide free educational resources to those wanting to learn computer programming and web development. It is very important. If I don't get donations, I won't be able to spare the time to make the curriculum. I mean, making the website, the videos, it takes a lot of work. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, happy coding.